In this video, we will talk about symbiosis and the types of interactions that exist between symbionts. So, what is symbiosis? Symbiosis is a type of association between two organisms in which one organism lives in or on the body of other organism, and usually the symbionts are of different species but not necessarily. So here, for example, the association or that exists between anemone and a clownfish. In this type of association, the anemone provides the clownfish with protection and shelter, whereas the clownfish provides anemone with the nutrients in the form of waste and also scare off potential predator fishes. So this is a type of mutualistic symbiotic association, and next we are going to discuss the different types of symbiotic associations. So phoresis is a type of interaction in which the two symbionts are merely traveling together and they do not have any physiological or biochemical dependence on each other. And in this case, one phoront is usually smaller as compared to the other, and it is mechanically carried out by its larger companion. So examples include bacteria on the legs of a fly and fungal spores on the feet of beetle. So there is another interesting example, Dermatobia hominis. Dermatobia hominis is a fly and its larvae lives beneath the skin of warm-blooded animals. So the female Dermatobia hominis attaches her eggs to another insect, for example a mosquito. Here in this figure you can see that the eggs have been attached to the abdomen of mosquito. When the mosquito finds its prey and it feeds upon the prey, the eggs rapidly hatch and drop onto the skin of their host and rapidly burrow into its skin, and then their development occurs under the skin of their warm-blooded host. Next is mutualism. Mutualism is a type of association in which both of the partners benefit from the association, and mutualism is usually obligatory. It means that there is a physiological dependence between the symbionts, and it has evolved to such an extent that one mutual cannot survive without the other. The examples include termites and their intestinal myriad flagellates. So termites cannot digest cellulose because they cannot synthesize the enzyme cellulase, whereas the myriad flagellates that live in the intestine of termites synthesize cellulase and digest the wood eaten by their host. So in this case, the termites cannot survive without these myriad flagellates, because if the wood is eaten, they cannot digest it by themselves. So this is obligatory mutualistic association. Next is cleaning symbiosis. Cleaning symbiosis is basically a behavioral phenomenon that is displayed by crustaceans, small fish that are known as cleaners, and the larger marine fish. So in this case, the larger fish visit the stations that are established by the cleaners, and the cleaners remove and eat the ectoparasites, injured tissues, fungi, and other organisms from the skin of these larger marine fish. And in this case, the cleaners get their food in the form of the ectoparasites or injured tissues, fungi, etc. Whereas the larger fish get rid of these ectoparasites, their injured tissues or fungi that can harm them. So it is a type of mutualistic association that exists between these organisms. So in this figure you can see that this is a giant moray and a cleaner wrasse on the coral reef that is cleaning the skin of the giant moray, whereas these are the myriad flagellates that live in the intestine of termites. Commensalism is a type of symbiotic association in which one partner benefits from the association, whereas the other one is neither benefited nor harmed. So the term commensal, it means eating at the same table, and most of these associations involve the feeding on food wasted by one of the partner. So here is an example. Sharkfish and remoras are often cited as examples of commensals. Remoras are basically slender fish that have a dorsal fin and this dorsal fin is modified for attachment to larger fish, and it is basically an adhesive organ. So remoras attach to the larger fish, for example shark fish, and they feed upon the scraps of food that are wasted by the sharks. So commensalism may be facultative in the sense that this association is not necessary for the survival of these commensals. So, for example, the stalked ciliates of genus Vorticella are found on small crustaceans. For example, here you can see that in this figure, the whitish structures that you can see on this shrimp are the stalked ciliates that are present on the shrimp. So these stalked ciliates that belong to the genus Vorticella can also survive on the sticks that are present in the ponds. Okay, so on the other hand, commensalism can also be obligatory. So it means that the stalked ciliates belonging to the genus Epistylus can only survive on crustaceans. So this is an example of obligate commensalistic association. Parasitism is a type of relationship in which one of the participants, that is known as a parasite, either harms or lives at the expense of their host. So this is a type of association in which one of the participant is benefited whereas the other one is harmed. So next we will discuss the types of parasites. Parasites may be ectoparasites that live on the surface of its host, whereas endoparasites live inside the body of their host. The parasitism may be obligatory or facultative. Obligatory parasite means the parasite that cannot complete its life cycle without spending at least some of the part of their life in as a parasite or in their host. Okay, so many obligate parasites have free living stages outside the host, but they have to spend some of their life stages or period of their life as parasitic relationship. Next is facultative parasites. Facultative parasites are not normally parasitic, but if they are accidentally eaten or enter the wound or body, then they can become parasitic. So the example is Naegleria fowleri, that is a free living amoeba, and it can cause a severe infection if it gets into the body of humans, and the infection is primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. It is a brain infection and it can lead to the destruction of brain tissues. Next is accidental or incidental parasite. This is a case in which when a parasite enters or attaches to the body of species that is different from its natural host. Okay, so these are the accidental or incidental parasites, and in most of the cases accidental parasites do not survive in the wrong host, but in few cases they can be extremely lethal or pathogenic. Next is permanent parasites. Permanent parasites are the parasites that live their entire adult lives in parasitic association or within or on their host, are known as permanent parasites. On the contrary, there are temporary or intermittent parasites. These are the parasites such as mosquitoes or bed bugs that feed on their host and then leave their host. Okay, so these temporary parasites are sometimes referred as micro predators because they usually prey on several different hosts. Next is parasitoids. Parasitoids are basically insects. Typically, these are flies or wasps belonging to other Hymenoptera and Diptera, and their immature stages feed on their host's body and they ultimately kill their host. So these are known as parasitoids. Next is protelian parasites. Protelian parasites are insects in which only the immature stages of these species are parasitic. So these are known as protelian parasites. Next is the types of host. So first of all, definitive host. Definitive host is a type of host in which the parasite reaches sexual maturity. It means that the sexual reproduction of the parasite occurs in the definitive host. Intermediate host is a type of host that is required for the development of parasite, and it does not reach sexual maturity in intermediate host. So next is paratenic or transport host. Paratenic or transport host is a type of host in which the parasite does not undergo any development, it remains alive and reaches the infective stage in this host. Okay, so this is just a transport host in which it remains alive and it is infective to another host. So here is an interesting example of owls and thorny headed worms. Owls are parasitized by these thorny headed worms, and these worms undergo their development to infective stage in insects. Owls do not directly feed upon the insects, but shrews do feed upon these insects. And these worms then get encysted in the mesenteries of these shrews. When owls catch shrews, then they get infected by these worms. So in this example, shrew is a transport host between the insect, that is intermediate host, and the owl, that is definitive host. So next is reservoir host. Reservoir host is any animal that harbors an infection that can be transmitted to the humans. So here is the example that rats that have Trichinella spiralis. Trichinella spiralis basically causes nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, fever, fatigue, and abdominal discomfort to humans. So in this example, or in this case, rats act as reservoir host for Trichinella spiralis. Next is hyperparasitism. Hyperparasitism is a type of parasitism in which one parasite harbors another parasite. So here in this figure, you can see that this is a that is a parasite of plants, and this worm is harboring the nematode parasite larvae. So the parasite is being parasitized. So this is known as hyperparasitism.